Attention, you're listening to The Todd Huff Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk and education. Be advised, the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. And now, coming to you from the Full Suite Wealth Studios, here's your conservative but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. We are engaged, by the way, in an information war, an all-out information war over ICE. The narrative is presented first. The facts, if they're ever presented, are presented later, usually through the help of people with iPhones or, well, mobile phones, cameras on the streets, people who, release dash cam footage and so forth. That's what happens later, if that's allowed to happen at all. And of course, the political and cultural damage is already done. It's baked into this equation, because people can't agree on reality, because many people are simply lied to, fed propaganda all day, and there's difficulty that comes from trying to pierce that those circumstances. So that's where we're headed today, my friends. You know that one of the biggest challenges that we as conservatives have is finding ways to ensure that our values align with everything that we do, including how we invest our money. That's why I love what the team at 48 Financial is doing. They specialize in biblically responsible investing. That means they screen out companies that do not align with our faith, with our values, so that we're not funding things, my friends, that are fueling some of the stuff happening out there, from abortions to the trans agenda to simply the propaganda machine. And so they do the heavy lifting. 48 Financial does the heavy lifting. All you have to do is do an assessment, a very quick and easy assessment, to find out to what degree your investments are in alignment with your purpose and goals. And you might think this is not a big deal, Todd. I just invested my money, but you're fueling, my friends, in part. This is the cold, hard truth. You're fueling in part the left's apparatus that has been weaponized against us. I know it's difficult. I know it's complicated, but there are now tools available. These weren't always available. 48 Financial is here to help you. You can take that assessment at 48financial.com/Todd. That's 48financial.com/Todd. 48 Financial, because our money should work for, not against, our values. All right. Let's hit the ground running here today. I got a lot that I want to get to. New developments in the Renee Good shooting. And the officer who, of course, is involved in this shooting. You might be surprised to know, if you haven't seen this already, this is at theblaze.com. This will be, as always, in the stack of stuff on our website. Just that's, of course, a hat tip, a head nod to the late, great Rush Limbaugh. He used to call his items, his stories of the day, the stack. We've got a stack of stuff. It's a digital stack today. He had a physical stack, but we put that stuff for each episode in a place on the website called The Stack. Each episode has a stack, each episode of the Toddcast. But if you go there, you'll find this article, along with others. Headline here: ICE officer suffered internal bleeding following Renee Good incident, according to a report written by Rebecca Zelko. Here we go. Just going to read this briefly to you. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent who was hit by Renee Good's car in Minneapolis reportedly suffered internal bleeding after being hit by her vehicle. ICE agent Jonathan Ross reportedly suffered internal bleeding and was taken to the hospital after incident with Good on January 7th, according to CBS, my friends. CBS decides to do a little bit of real journalism here, citing U.S. officials recently released footage from the officer's perspective shows agents ordering Good to exit her vehicle before she turns her wheels toward Ross and accelerates, striking him. Good, who had reportedly been following ICE agents all day in Minneapolis, was fatally shot and died at the scene. You know this. We've talked about this. You've seen this. And so I just wanted to tell you this. So, because what's the narrative? The narrative is, there's this lady with the car in the street. ICE comes up and starts screaming at her. She's just, if at first they made it appear that she's just this uninvolved person. And this is not at all what happened. It's tragic what happened to her. It absolutely is. But to act like she played no role in this is absolutely disassociated from reality. So she's in her car. We find out later from videos that were released, posted to social media by people in their homes or people on the street witnessing this incident, whatever. They were recording it on their phones. And she was blocking and interfering ICE agents for approximately 3 minutes. There's video evidence of this. Now, that's not enough, of course, to justify her being shot. That's not it. They were trying to move her, tell her to move, tell her to get out of the car eventually for obstructing ICE's legal operation. This is a legal operation. The left wants you to believe that it's not. The left will try to convince you that this is, again, a modern-day Gestapo that is acting outside the bounds of law, the Constitution, everything else. They're acting even outside the moral law, as we listened to the lunatic sheriff in Philadelphia earlier this week say those things. But friends, we saw this on video. But again, the initial narrative, the narrative that makes its way around the world 100 times before the truth even wakes up in the morning, the false narrative had already been set. And of course, people had expected the false narrative because that's the picture, that's the narrative they've been fed. Trump is Hitler. Of course, ICE has to be his Gestapo. Of course, ICE has to be breaking the law and just randomly shooting people on the street. And so they saw this story. They knew 2% about the entire story, and they ran with it. In fact, they got so upset that they had anti-ICE protest, ICE out rallies, which of course we'll talk about that here in a moment as well. But people jump to conclusions because it's terrible. The headline is terrible. Woman shot by ICE officer, shot and killed by ICE officer. But you begin to read the entire story or hear the entire narrative or see the people who post the full video in context. You see the officer's body cam released. You see that he was struck by the car. You see on that body cam, which we talked about yesterday, you see from the body cam that the impact from his vantage point, from where he was a lot harder than maybe you thought it was from the camera back across the street or back in the second story of the house or whichever camera angle you were watching this from. But now we know, according to reports here, that the ICE officer was struck hard enough by the car to suffer internal bleeding. Now, again, we still don't know all the facts of the information. We have a much clearer vision of what actually happened that day than we did when this first broke. But we still don't have all the information. But now we know some key things. Number one, we know that this was, of course, intentional, that she was not just someone randomly on the street. She was trying to interfere with an ICE operation, number one. Number two, there were things, I don't know if you saw the video. I don't have this in the stack of stuff. I saw this yesterday. Her partner is heard on camera after the officer shot Renee Good. She's heard on camera saying something like, "I didn't know you used real bullets," or something like that. I don't know if you've seen that video, which again, why do they think these things, right? They think these things because they listen to a group of people who are hell-bent on telling them lies and distorting reality to get them angry, to get them riled up, to protect people who should absolutely be deported from this country, to convince these people that, again, it all flows from the same narrative. Trump, evil orange man, Hitler, Gestapo, secret police. This is Hitler 2.0, Nazi Germany in America today. That is what these people have come to believe. They've also seen in certain cities where law enforcement is hands off. They don't do anything. They let people basically do whatever they want in these protests. There's nothing wrong with protesting, but when a protest becomes a riot, which of course I've done that on this program before to explain to people when that happens, because when the first brick is flying through the air, when there's fires in the street, when you're dancing on top of police cars, when you're obstructing, dare I say, ICE, it's no longer a peaceful protest. When you're breaking the law, obstructing an operation, throwing things, lighting things on fire, that's not a peaceful protest. You're at something altogether different. You're at a riot. Even if it's a riot that appears to be manageable and under control, you're no longer peacefully protesting, my friends. And these folks have been lied to. They've seen certain mayors and governors tell law enforcement they could only use rubber bullets at certain for crowd control or tear gas or anything else. They've been told that ICE is not a legitimate law enforcement group, so they may be surprised ICE even has guns. I don't know what these people really think, and I'm even more sure that people on the left, people who buy the garbage, they absolutely don't know what they think. They believe a bunch of lies, and if you strike an officer with your vehicle hard enough to cause internal bleeding when he's in front of your car, when you're disobeying orders and you accelerate the vehicle in his direction, it is tragic. It's tragic for the officer to be put in that situation. It's tragic that this woman is dead, but to pretend that there's no way she had anything to do with this is beyond a reasonable position to take. And so now we know that there's internal bleeding that was suffered by the ICE agent, by Jonathan Ross. And we also know, I shared this the other day, that he had just had in the past 6, 7, 8 months, whatever, an incident where he was dragged. When he was reaching into a vehicle, he was dragged, required 30 stitches from being harmed in that altercation with a vehicle. So obviously, a person with any sense, a person with any ability to put themselves in Officer Ross's position suddenly has a much different understanding, a much different perspective than they may have had the first time they saw the video. Internal bleeding, a history of being harmed with a vehicle, someone who accelerated a car directly at the officer, the impact that is seen from the footage of his body cam changes that perspective pretty dramatically. And suddenly what people immediately thought was, in some cases, they thought that this was just some ICE agent who had had enough with someone trying to interfere with his operation. Suddenly the whole narrative changes, at least for those of us who know truth and reality. So that's out there. That's absolutely out there. Now there's something else that's going on out there. There's another bit of propaganda. I don't know if you've seen this. In Memphis, Tennessee, there was a protest, an ICE out rally. And I want to talk about that because here's another bit of propaganda that's being fed to us by the people on the left. They live and breathe to promote propaganda, to do anything, to say whatever they have to say, to get people to vote for the Democrat Party, to get the base to be upset enough to ensure that they come out and vote in November, to make sure that they have as many people here illegally as possible so that those folks can theoretically or hopefully vote in elections. I'm telling you, this is all part of a big operation, not just to get votes, but also to fundamentally change America by overwhelming it with people coming in that are not asked or required to assimilate. That has been the plan. Plus, of course, to get as many votes as possible. This is not a complicated puzzle to solve. It just takes, I think, a little bit of strength to speak the truth and to not be afraid of the consequences or the inevitable censorship that comes, or the censorship threats that will come from making such a statement. So I want to talk with you about what happened in Memphis and how they've been misrepresenting that as well. But friends, really quickly, take a breather here. Tell you that, of course, we have a partnership with MyPillow. MyPillow creates products right here in the good old US of A. Mike Lindell, the founder and CEO of MyPillow, of course, is based in the great state of Minnesota. He's witnessed his state completely just turn into absolute chaos between what's happened here, what's happened with the Somali Medicaid fraud scandal, which we've talked about on this program. It's an utter disaster in Minnesota in so many ways. That's, of course, also where this Renee Good shooting took place in Minneapolis. But he's based there, and he's also running for governor, but he's still running MyPillow, still delivering quality products to those of you, many of you in this audience. And if you haven't purchased one of his products, I encourage you to do so. We have his pillows and sheets and towels and slippers and dog beds here at the Huff household. Quality products made right here in America, made by a patriot who's trying to restore now the state of Minnesota. So you can go to mypillow.com, shop. There's some things I didn't even mention that they sell, though. You'd be surprised some of the things that you'll find at MyPillow. MyPillow.com is the website. Promo code Todd is going to save you on these products, give you discounts and specials and so forth. MyPillow.com. Promo code Todd is what you'll use during checkout to get those savings. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about this Memphis incident. This is an article at Red State. You may have seen this elsewhere, but this goes to show you the depth and the levels of propaganda that's being pushed, even sometimes by elected officials. This is not surprising at this point in time. Sometimes I say things on this show and I think, man, 10 years ago, people, 15 years, whatever, it's a different timeline for different people. But, if you say certain things, if you say that politicians are openly engaging in propaganda, there's a point in time where that would have been considered a kooky thing to say, even though it probably was happening. I'm not saying that wasn't the case. I'm saying that we've come a long way as a culture to where we're able to address these things head on, and we understand what we're up against. And thankfully we do. Headline here, redstate.com, woke Tennessee Democrat has viral claim about ICE debunked after dash cam video drops. A Tennessee lawmaker known for ridiculous antics is attempted to push a narrative that a state trooper had rammed an anti-ICE protester with a patrol vehicle during a heated confrontation in Memphis, only for the Tennessee Highway Patrol, that's the THP, to release dash cam footage that clearly proved the claim false. Now, there's a video in here, which of course I can't share with you as you're listening on radio or to an audio podcast, or perhaps even reading part of this in our free daily newsletter. But there is a video that's embedded here, the video that was released from the dash cam that's embedded in this article, which again, you can get this at our website in a stack of stuff for today. But anyway, the alleged incident took place on Sunday when hundreds of demonstrators took part in an ICE out protest against immigration and customs enforcement policies. Now, pause for a moment. Why is there all this anger against ICE? I mean, really ask yourself, why is there all this anger? I mean, these are people that are simply enforcing the law. That's what this is. They are enforcing the law. There is nothing, hear me say this, there's absolutely nothing illegal happening. Now, is there a case where someone in ICE does something that violates policy or something like that? Absolutely could be the case. This is the case anywhere. This is like saying regular law enforcement officers patrolling the streets are not breaking the law, but on a case-by-case basis, someone might be. It's like saying teachers in schools, public schools or private schools or wherever they teach, you can say teachers are not unified in some they're colluding with one another to break the law. But that's not the case. You'll certainly find situations, though, where individual teachers are doing some really atrocious things. And this is the case in any industry, any profession, any group of people. This is always the case. But ICE, what it's seeking to do is not against the law. It is actually enforcing the law. And actually, the people who are protesting are actually promoting ideas that are against the law. Now, let me say this. You can certainly make that case. You can certainly push for the law to be changed. That is, of course, part of what it means to be an American, to win the debate in the public square. But instead of debating it on its merits and talking about the pros and cons of actually what's going on here and whether or not we should do things like give amnesty to all these millions of people. I mean, they want their cake and eat it too. They don't want to come out and say that because that is an incredibly unpopular thing to do. Most Americans do not want to reward people who came to this country illegally with citizenship. Even the people who want to have some sort of a pathway to citizenship, it's very rare that someone is bold enough to just say, we want this person day one to be a full American citizen. There's at least some sort of criteria. It has to happen over the course of time. They have to, they have to not get in trouble with the law. They have to pay their taxes or whatever. There's some sort of a system. It's not just poof, you're suddenly a resident, a citizen, a legal citizen of the United States. But at its core, that's what they're arguing for without saying those words. If people are here illegally and they're not allowed to be here, according to the law, and ICE is the enforcement mechanism, the group of people that are tasked with, customs and immigration enforcement, if these folks are patrolling and actually enforcing the law as they're doing, what are they supposed to do? People are mad that they're enforcing the law, and they don't like the policies. But why protest against ICE? Protest against the government then. I know ICE is the government, but I mean specifically protest to have Congress change the law. Because you can't be out there. It's like protesting the speed. They recently raised the speed limit in Indianapolis on I-465, the highway that runs around the city, that circles the city of Indianapolis. Most major cities have these. Raise it to 65. It was 55. Now, you could go out there and say that the speed limit should be 70 or 55, whatever. But what you really shouldn't be doing is getting mad at law enforcement officers for enforcing the fact that it's now 65. But that's what's happening with ICE, my friends. And I've got to take a time out. I want to get to this story because, again, it's propaganda, as only the left can do. Quick time out, though, my friends. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. There is a lot of confusion out there, a lot of confusion about Kratom. In fact, you might be curious about Kratom, or maybe you're just trying to figure out who you can trust when it comes to Kratom. That's why I've introduced you here to Christopher's Organic Botanicals, family-run company, offers natural lab-tested Kratom, not the synthetic junk that's given real Kratom a bad name. Christopher's is about sourcing Kratom responsibly, testing it for purity, working with farmers in Indonesia, and following the same traditions that have been trusted for generations. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just a clean, honest alternative for people looking for a more natural way to support their health. Start with their Kratom Starter Pack. It's a great way to start. You can use coupon code Todd Huff to save 10% on your purchase. To do that, or to research and to do more about the product, or learn more about the product, go to Christopher'sOrganicBotanicals.com. That's Christopher'sOrganicBotanicals.com. Coupon code Todd Huff saves you 10% on your first purchase. Truth, tradition, transparency, my friends. Okay, let's get back to it here today. Looking at this article in ICE that's exposed some more propaganda from the left, as has been the case of late. Tensions escalated between protesters and law enforcement. Again, reading from this article at Red State, culminating in at least one arrest a woman charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, indecent exposure, vandalism, assault on a police officer, and obstructing a highway. She was busy there. Aside from that, she was having a perfectly normal one, something you might expect from a purple-haired charmer. What really took off, however, were claims from Justin Pearson. This is a Democrat member of the Tennessee House of Representatives who accused the Tennessee Highway Patrol officer of, quote, ramming a marshal. I'm going to read his post, Justin Pearson's post on Sunday here on Facebook. This is what it said. The ramming of a marshal at a peaceful protest in Memphis by the Tennessee Highway Patrol is disturbing, dangerous, and troubling, especially in these times. By the way, by marshal, he means a guy who had a reflective vest on that was a protester. So apparently you're now a marshal. It's just law enforcement, or they say ICE is not law enforcement, but a dude in a vest at an anti-ICE rally protest that may have turned, apparently, at least in part, into a riot is a marshal. But nonetheless here, he says, I've seen enough videos and heard from enough attendees from the ICE Out March to believe that there needs to be an investigation done by TBI, that's the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, of the Tennessee Highway Patrol officers' actions. In the morning, this would have been talking about Monday morning, I will be sending them a letter and requesting a meeting upon our return to Nashville this week. I'm sure they're shaking in their boots, Mr. Pearson. The First Amendment, he writes, is sacred, and the people who are angelic dissenters. This is what he writes. I'm not making this up. Angelic dissenters. The pure ridiculousness of this statement. Angelic ministers. You know, our founders said if men were angels, right, then no government would be necessary. This guy thinks the protesters are angelic dissenters. They're angelic dissenters to the status quo. And that right, that First Amendment right, should be protected. It should be protected, but to call them angelic dissenters is a step too far into the world of absolute lunacy. But nonetheless, no officer or official, he writes, no matter how high up, may abridge this right or endanger the lives of my constituents. He writes, my constituents. But the problem is, if you look at the video, and listen, there are times, one of the things that's on our list is to move back more to video. There's some things we're doing internally and with the newsletter that are taking priority. But I would like to be able to show this video to you. Because if you haven't seen it, and you can go to the Tennessee Highway Patrol's X page where you can see this. You can go to this Red State article. You can go to the stack of stuff. I don't care, but it's worth just looking at. Tennessee Highway Patrol releases this video, and literally, there's a line of cop cars, right? Law enforcement officers in their vehicles. And this guy in a vest comes out, and he stands directly in front of, like his legs are probably touching the bars across the grill. Those are there, by the way, to protect the vehicle if they have to actually ram something, or, of course, if they're in a chase and they've got to do the maneuver where they spin the person out or whatever. It's there to protect the vehicle. So he goes up. This guy walks up to this car, stands directly in front of it. Directly. I mean, he's touching it. Or certainly appears to be. If he's not touching it, he's incredibly close. He eventually touches it, though, because I watched the full video. So the officer's yelling, move, get out of the way, and he's standing there. I don't know if he's saying something, he's gesturing, whatever. But he grabs onto one of those bars in front of the car, and then he kind of sits down and lays down, reaching up with his arms. You can't see it, but I think he's still holding on to the bar, as though the cop car had hit him. And so people apparently had seen this, and they had told Representative Pearson here about this, or someone had shared videos. I mean, he said here in his post, I've seen enough videos and heard from enough attendees from the ICE Out March to believe there needs to be an investigation done. Unless there's another incident, which there doesn't appear to be, this is completely and utterly fabricated. What video did Representative Pearson see that would make him think that any of this needs to be investigated? And by the way, the guy gets up, stands up, and just turns around and walks away. So It's fake to begin with. It's not real. He doesn't get hurt. None of that stuff happens. None of it's real. It's pretend. It's propaganda that they can then point to. And someone out there is going to say, when they say, why are you upset at ICE? Somebody's going to include this incident in a list of grievances against ICE. When they were patrolling outside an ICE out rally in Memphis, Tennessee, they struck someone with their car, laying him flat out on the ground, and no one even sought to investigate it. You know, this is Pearson, Representative Pearson here should be held accountable for this. I don't care what his political beliefs are. He's a leftist, so I mean, he's dangerous for that. But if you're going to promote something that is clearly a 100%, this isn't even 99% like I can see where the guy's coming from. Absolutely not. This is complete, just staged silliness. There's nothing remotely close to real hope. The officer's car was not moving forward. The officer was telling him to move. The guy clearly laid down. I told you what happened. You can watch the video. This should 100% disqualify Justin Pearson from running for any office. No one should take this clown seriously based on this alone. And he's said and done other ridiculous things as well. So why is it so appealing? Why is it so appealing to the people who vote for him? Do they not ever dig into the fact and just look at this video? This video's, I don't know. I watched the whole thing. It's probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess 30 or 40 seconds. It's been a minute since it's not long. You can't watch this video and think that anything needs to be investigated. The only thing you should think after watching this video is that if a politician cites this as a legitimate problem and concern, as a legitimate issue, they should be voted out of office. They shouldn't be representing anyone because they're part of the problem. Reminds me a little bit of AOC years ago when she went to the southern border. You remember this. She was dressed all in white, went to the southern border. I'm saying that because it might jog your memory of her pretending. And yes, she was pretending to cry. Remember, AOC was selected through an application process by the Justice Democrats to run in her district in New York. She was. They put out a casting call. This is a true story. Put out a casting call. Her brother responded to the casting call when she was a bartender. They did some basic interviews. They looked at her and thought, you know what, you look like you could play the role. You look like you've got what it takes. Let's see your dramatic acting skills. We think that you're the perfect candidate. And so it's all fake. It's all propaganda. She goes down to the southern border. She's pretending as though she's standing outside a bunch of cages with kids in them during Trump's first term in office, because that was the narrative. Trump puts kids in cages and all this sort of nonsense. Turns out, if you saw the full picture of where she was standing, there's a facility up on a hill. I'm talking, it was, I mean, it may have been a mile away. It was far, tiny little facility. You couldn't even get remotely close to the building. She took a picture outside of a fence, crying with her head in her hands. 100% fake, 100% fabricated, 100% designed to mislead the voter. It's pure propaganda. It should disqualify her from any serious contention for any office permanently. These people who do these sorts of things are not to be trusted. They manipulate people. They propagandize people. They fuel these dangerous narratives that are getting people harmed along the way. They are the problem. Propaganda is their tool, and I've got to take a break, my friends. Sit tight. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Third and final segment here, coming to you from the Full Suite Wealth Studios. This propaganda is not going to stop. What has to be done is it has to be exposed. The people who are engaging in the propaganda, we just need to stop listening to them. I know you don't, but these folks on the left need to have a sudden, encounter, hopefully with truth here, and a desire not to live in darkness and accept this nonsense as though it's reality. This is absurd, the things that they're trying to push upon us. So I want to talk about propaganda here in the third and final segment here. This is our shortest segment, so I'll get to it as much as I can, my friends. So, ever notice, though, how some families seem to have a plan that lasts for generations? That is not by accident. Full Suite Wealth works with people who want their wealth to make a difference for years to come. Their team brings together high-level investment strategies like private equity, private credit, option strategies, all those things combined with expert legal guidance. It's about making sure your vision becomes a reality for the people you love today and tomorrow. If you're looking to do more than just manage your money, if you want to leave a mark and build something lasting, take a look at Full Suite Wealth. FullSuiteWealth.com is the website. Again, FullSuiteWealth.com. Build your legacy, my friends. Secure your future. Propaganda is, being doubled down upon here in this country. ICE, we're being told, is the modern day Gestapo. That is a narrative they're trying to push. In some cases, it's an actual straw man where they say that that's conservatives are arguing or calling for modern day Gestapo because, of course, they say we're Nazis. But what they do with this is they frame this morally. Well, they frame it as immoral. They frame it as a threat to our democracy. They frame it as something that is illegal. That's then, of course, where these people on the left can get up on their high horses. They feel like they are doing something that's righteous, it's justifiable. Any action that they take against things that are immoral, a threat to democracy, illegal, are good. I said yesterday, or maybe earlier this week, that these folks believe that they are the modern day equivalent of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Of course, most of them have no idea who he is, but that's who they think they are. They believe in that anything is necessary to stop ICE because of this. And it prepares people to believe that any accusation made against an ICE officer is automatically legitimate because, of course, what else would we expect from the Gestapo but these terrible things? They're killing people. They're doing all sorts of terrible things. That's the narrative. We've also got Ilhan Omar out there claiming, I don't have a lot of time to get to this, but it's in the stack of stuff if you want to read this. Ilhan Omar is out there claiming that ICE is not arresting criminals. And of course, the DHS comes out and says, bet me we're not, Representative Omar. This is again at, where is this? Red State, I think. Nope, Town Hall. I'm sorry. Townhall.com. Ilhan Omar claims ICE isn't arresting criminals. Here's proof she's lying. This is by Amy Curtis at townhall.com. I'm just going to go to the highlights here. She was on with, Chris Hayes of, MS Now. MSNBC. She says Ilhan Omar says ICE has not been able to produce any evidence that they are that they are finding people who are undocumented who have committed crimes. I've got a clip here. I'm not going to get into that. You can watch it if you want. But Bill, what's his name? How do you pronounce it? Milligan on Fox News. ICE had provided a list, images, pictures of criminal illegal aliens they arrested specifically during their surge in the sanctuary state of Minnesota. Bill Milligan writes that it's the most disturbing list that he's ever seen, including numerous convicted child rapists. It's just terrible stuff. And 10 convicted killers. So that's out there. And ICE, by the way, they start, Kristi Noem, Secretary Noem, DHS, she starts putting out individual cases. She tweets them, posts them on X. Joshua Forno, a criminal illegal alien from Liberia, convicted of third-degree criminal sexual conduct and giving false information to a law enforcement officer. Puts his mugshot in. Posts another one. Chia Yang, a criminal illegal alien from Laos, convicted of possession with intent to distribute and conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine, theft of a motor vehicle, fleeing police in a motor vehicle and driving after revocation. They continue to post these. And I would have somebody in my office doing this just all day. Post these all day. Jai Vang, a criminal illegal alien from Laos, convicted of armed robbery of a business. So they've got the group photo that shows a bunch of people, but then they're sending out these individual pictures. But the propaganda is that ICE isn't going after criminal illegal aliens. By the way, they don't have to just go after criminal illegal aliens. The data, based upon reports, show that 70% of the people who have been apprehended and deported by ICE have been criminals, but you don't have to be. It's about 70%. That's according to a tweet from Guy Benson, who looked into the ICE data. Propaganda, though. Propaganda is designed to lie to people to get them to vote for Democrats, my friends. I got to go, though. Out of time. Have a great day. SDJ.